On my way to the cabin site, I spotted a patch of ferns that were beginning to spring up. Every fern starts the season in a little curl known as a fiddlehead, but they don't stay that way for long. In a matter of mere days, the fiddleheads unfurl themselves into fronds, usually 3 to 4 feet in length. Based on their smooth, hairless stalks, brown papery coverings, and U-shaped stems, I knew that they were ostrich fern fiddleheads, which are edible. Actually, they are one of my favorite wild foods to eat, and they are only available for a short time in the spring. If you are interested in learning more about these fiddleheads, how to locate, identify, and cook them, I'll include a link to an episode I made about them in the description below. I picked a handful of fiddleheads to have with my breakfast that day. I only took a small amount because I didn't want to overpick the small patch. Now all I needed was a hot drink to go with my bush breakfast. As far as evergreen teas go, I've never really liked them. Despite the health benefits of evergreen teas, I can't get past the bitter flavor. In my opinion, they all taste a little too much like turpentine, and I've tried them all. Spruce, pine, and fir. The only evergreen tea that I actually like is white cedar. On the other hand, I know there are plenty of people out there who love their pine, spruce, and fir teas. So all I'm gonna say is, don't knock it until you've tried it. Now to be fair, I've mostly had evergreen tea during the winter time, when the needles are supposedly more bitter. So now that it was spring, and since I was passing by some fir trees, I thought I'd give evergreen tea another try. Who knows, maybe the needles brewed in spring would be nicer on the palate. New growth can be seen here on the branch tips. It is said that these new growth needles are the most desirable to make tea with. They certainly were more tender. In fact, I ate several fir tips raw, something I'd never be able to do with the tougher, more mature needles. I noticed that some of the tips tasted mild and pleasant, while others still had that sharp turpentine flavor. Anyway, I gathered a small amount to make my tea with. Now, when it comes to foraging, it's important to first obtain a good knowledge of whatever tree or plant you want to harvest from, and also of any potential lookalikes which might be poisonous. I placed the fir tips into a pot of water and gently heated them until the water began to simmer, at which point I removed the pot from the heat and covered it to allow the fir tea to steep. I boiled the fiddleheads for 8 minutes, dunked them in cold water, and gave them a quick fry in fresh garlic and butter. After the fir tea had finished steeping, I added a spoonful of honey for good measure. My bush breakfast was now complete. Fried fiddleheads, fir needle tea, and sardines for protein. The fiddleheads tasted amazing. And the evergreen tea tasted worse than ever. I still couldn't get past the strong and bitter turpentine flavor, but it wasn't for a lack of trying. I suppose some things just aren't for everyone. After breakfast, I spent a good part of the day setting up some rigging to help lift the next set of logs onto the cabin. The setup worked perfectly. Once we get the final courses on, the eave logs, purlins, and ridge log will soon follow. In a later episode, I'll give a more in-depth look at how I set up the rigging and the way it works, but I thought I'd give you all a sneak peek for now. Finally, it was time to do some spring cleaning inside the cabin base. Pretty soon, we'll be installing the subfloor, which meant that I first had to move a batch of live edge spruce out of the way. The lumber came from a dead standing spruce that I felled last year, and milled into 2-inch slabs on my sawmill. They've been seasoning ever since on the cabin base, until now. It's nice to see the floorboards again. Even nicer to have a proper rigging system in place. Hello, fellow outsiders. I just wanted to say a big, heartfelt thank you on behalf of Mrs. Outsider and myself, especially over the last couple of weeks. Your encouragement and support has meant so much to us. If you're not aware, a couple weeks ago I had Mrs. Outsider out here with me to share a bit about her journey with brain cancer and how we've been walking this road together. And naturally, it was a little scary for us to be so vulnerable in front of such a large audience. But we felt that her story was too important not to share. After sharing it, we read the comments from all of you, and we were so overwhelmed and so grateful for all of the positive comments and people just sharing how much it helped them in whatever situation they were facing. We read so many comments from people that had either gone through cancer, are currently going through cancer, or have someone in their family that is battling the horrible disease. And so to read everyone's stories was inspiring, humbling, and we just realized that we are not in this fight alone. So it was really good hearing from all of you. We also heard from so many people that had just been so deeply touched by our story that they wanted to help in some way, shape, or form. And so a lot of people asked us if we have a Patreon account, or if there's a way that they can donate to us, to the channel. And that has been such a blessing to Mrs. Outsider and I. We were so floored that people were willing and wanting to just donate to us. But we just wanted to say, as grateful and as touched as we are that people want to give to us, we just couldn't accept that in good conscience. We made a decision not too long ago that we don't want to have a Patreon account. We don't want to accept donations, because there are so many other people who are going through battles that are near you, probably, that can use the money or use the help. And so it would be better given to them. Just give them your time. Give them some encouragement. That would mean the most to us. If you would still like to help our channel in some way, we did release a merch line. We are selling t-shirts, sweaters, mugs, stickers, all sorts of things like that with the Outsider crest on it. And so if you purchase one of those items, we receive a commission from every sale, and I'll include a link in the description below for that. As a parting thought, if you would like to help others in their fight against cancer but don't know how, I encourage you to consider giving to the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation. I'll include a link to them in the description. Princess Margaret is one of the top 5 cancer research centers in the world, and they are also world-class in patient care. Mrs. Outsider knows this firsthand, as she received her cancer treatments from them. Keep fighting the good fight, my friends.